Stop scrolling for a second because what I'm about to say might completely change the way you deal with people who drain your energy, disrespect you, or try to manipulate you. Most people don't realize this, but there's a hidden rule in life that separates the weak from the powerful, the confused from the unshakable, and the controlled from the truly free. It's not about working harder, being louder, or proving you're right. It's about mastering something most people never even notice: how you respond when someone is trying to break you. If you stay here until the end, I'm going to show you how smart people handle toxic people in a way that shocks everyone around them. A way that leaves others confused, powerless, and completely off balance, while you remain calm, confident, and untouchable. You're going to discover why reacting the way most people do is the exact reason they stay stuck in frustration, stress, and chaos, and how a few simple strategic moves can flip the entire dynamic in your favor. You'll learn the hidden power of silence, the secret behind setting boundaries that people actually respect, and the shocking truth about why walking away is not weakness, it's the most powerful statement you can ever make. I'll reveal how detachment, control, and clarity can transform your life, protect your energy, and make you untouchable to anyone who tries to bring you down. By the time this video is over, you won't just see toxic people differently. You feel different. You'll feel different. You will understand how to take control of your own life, your own peace, and your own happiness in ways most people never even dream of. So stay with me, watch every second, and by the end, you'll know exactly how to handle the chaos and the toxicity that's been holding you back, once and for all. Your power begins here. Don't blink, don't scroll, keep watching. Most people believe that being smart means having the right answers. But in real life, especially in difficult human interactions, intelligence is not measured by how quickly you can respond. It's measured by how well you can pause. Because the moment someone disrespects you, challenges you, or tries to provoke you, your first instinct is not logic, it's emotion. It's immediate. It's automatic. It's human. You feel the need to defend yourself, to correct them, to prove something. And in that moment, it feels justified. It feels right. But here's the truth that most people never learn. Your first reaction is rarely your best response. Smart people understand this at a deep level. They don't trust their initial emotional impulse, especially in heated situations, not because they're weak, but because they're aware. They know that emotions, while valid, are not always reliable guides for action. So instead of reacting instantly, they create space, a pause, and that pause is where their power lives. Because in that small moment between stimulus and response, something extraordinary happens. They shift from being controlled by the situation to taking control of it. They stop being participants in chaos and become observers of it. They ask themselves, consciously or unconsciously, what is actually happening here? Is this worth my energy? Is this person looking for understanding or just a reaction? And most of the time, they already know the answer. Toxic people are not seeking resolution. They are seeking engagement. They want your attention, your frustration, your emotional investment. They want to pull you into a space where logic disappears and emotion takes over, because that's the only place they can win. And if you react without thinking, you step directly into that space. That's why smart people don't react the way others expect them to. When someone raises their voice, they don't match it. When someone insults them, they don't immediately fire back. When someone tries to provoke them, they don't take the bait, not because they don't feel anything, but because they choose not to act on everything they feel. That distinction is everything. There's a difference between feeling anger and expressing it impulsively. There's a difference between being disrespected and losing your composure. There's a difference between having something to say and needing to say it immediately. And smart people live in that difference. They understand that once you lose control of your reaction, you hand over control of the entire interaction. Your tone changes, your clarity disappears, your message gets lost, and suddenly the conversation is no longer about truth. It's about emotion. That's the trap. And they refuse to fall into it. Instead, they respond with intention. Sometimes that response is calm and direct. A simple sentence delivered without emotion. that sets the tone and draws a line. Other times, that response is minimal, short, neutral, almost disengaged. And in some cases, the most powerful response is no response at all, because not every comment deserves a reply. Not every accusation deserves a defense. Not every person deserves access to your energy. And this is where emotional discipline becomes a form of intelligence. It's easy to react. Anyone can do that. It's difficult to remain composed when you're being tested. It's difficult to stay grounded when someone is trying to pull you out of your center. But that difficulty is exactly what makes it powerful. Because when you stay calm in a situation designed to provoke you, you send a message without saying a word. You communicate that you are not easily controlled. You show that your state of mind is not dependent on someone else's behavior. You demonstrate that you are operating on a level they cannot reach through manipulation, and that changes everything. The dynamic shifts. The person who is trying to provoke you loses their leverage. The tension they were trying to create doesn't land. The reaction they were expecting never comes. And in that moment, whether they realize it or not, they lose influence over you, but more importantly, you gain control over yourself. And that's the real goal. Because this is not about winning arguments. It's not about proving you're right. It's not about dominating the conversation. It's about mastering your own responses so completely that no one else can dictate your behavior. That is what real intelligence looks like in practice. It's quiet, it's controlled, it's deliberate. And once you develop that level of control, something shifts inside you. You stop feeling the need to react to everything. You stop getting pulled into unnecessary conflicts. You start choosing your responses based on purpose, not pressure. And that's when dealing with toxic people becomes different. Because now they're not controlling the interaction anymore. You are, and the moment you realize that you don't have to react to everything is the moment you stop being controlled by anything. There is a moment in every difficult interaction where most people feel an overwhelming urge to speak, to explain themselves, to defend their position, to correct what feels unfair or inaccurate. And in that moment, silence feels uncomfortable, almost like losing. But what if that discomfort is not a weakness? What if it's actually a signal that you are standing at the edge of real control? Because smart people understand something that most never fully grasp. Silence is not the absence of power. It is the presence of it, restrained. You see, toxic people rely on noise. Not just volume, but emotional noise, confusion, tension, rapid back and forth reactions. They create environments where everything feels urgent, where you feel like you have to respond immediately or risk being misunderstood, dismissed, or disrespected. And most people fall into that trap. They rush to fill the space. They rush to defend. They rush to speak. But in doing so, they give away their position. Because when you speak without control, you reveal more than your thoughts. You reveal your emotional state. Your frustration becomes visible. Your need to be heard becomes obvious. And to a toxic person, that is leverage. Smart people see this pattern clearly. So instead of rushing to speak, they slow down. They let the moment breathe. They allow silence to enter the conversation. Not as avoidance, but as intention. And that silence does something powerful. It disrupts the rhythm that the toxic person is trying to create. Think about it. When someone expects a reaction and doesn't get one, something shifts. The energy they were projecting has nowhere to land. The tension they were building begins to collapse. And suddenly, the dynamic changes. Because silence forces reflection. It creates space where there was supposed to be chaos. And in that space, control returns to the person who can tolerate it. That's why silence feels uncomfortable to most people. Not because it's weak, but because it requires discipline. It requires you to sit with your emotions without immediately acting on them. It requires you to resist the urge to prove something in the moment. And that resistance is where strength is built. Smart people don't use silence to avoid conflict. They use it to reshape it. Sometimes, silence is a pause before a measured response. A way to gather clarity before speaking with precision. Other times, silence is the response itself, a clear signal that what was said does not deserve engagement. And that distinction is critical, because not everything deserves your voice. Not every comment deserves your attention. Not every insult deserves your acknowledgement. Not every attempt to provoke deserves your participation. When you start to understand that, you begin to see silence differently. It's no longer empty. It becomes intentional.